Hello, hi guys, April 6 today. So in this video I want to focus on the recent spell of solar flares, of super active solar energy amplifying evolution, and this is the flash of that X1.3 flare which we saw just a few days ago. So let's go step by step here. Here once more the graph of all the flares we had. It was an unprecedented flare sequence for at least 5 years. We haven't seen something of that magnitude, of that density, and each of these spikes is an extreme spike in radiation, in X-ray radiation. That's what the sun is releasing, and then it travels for about 8 minutes. That radiation wave, and then hits Earth's atmosphere and causes what's called a radio blackout, frying the upper part of Earth's atmosphere, really giving Earth a big jolt. And that is just the very first impact of photons, of high charged energetic photons. And then a few days later come the solar winds, which are released usually at the same time of a flare, but travel much slower through that distance of whatever 86 or 93 million miles between sun and Earth. So for the light it takes something like 8 minutes and something. For the solar wind, even though traveling at hundreds of kilometers per second, takes about 2 to 3 days. And we never know, will that ejection of solar plasma really interact with Earth's magnetic field or not. This time it didn't really do much of that. It just created some minor G1 storms about 2-3 days following the flares. A good place to watch all that information is the spaceweather.com page. And this graph is from their site. I just should quickly show you where you can find that for those of you interested. This is the space weather page. It just takes a sec to load. So here you get all the recent updates and news, and if you want to see the graph I've shown you, that's usually hiding here. That's where you see the most recent data. It's updated I guess every minute or two. So you see it's become way more moderate again. This was the M and this was the X spike here, and okay, just wanted to show you where you can find that. So let's get into the charts of these flares, because this is just super important. These are chaotic events, you would say. They come out of nowhere, nobody can predict them. It's really the sun acting up in particular moments. So when that first M4 flare hit, the one you can see here, let me see again, this is the one. This was this first spike here which initiated that sequence. That was when the moon was in a very exact conjunction of Venus with Juno and Saturn. Immediately I knew that this was a healing energy which was coming in, warming up that degree where Mars and Saturn had their meeting just about a week later. You see, this is March 28, and yesterday on the 5th Mars and Saturn met at 22 degrees something here. So this was preparing that degree. Venus and Mars here, it's truly a creative energy, and with the moon close to Venus and particularly also Juno, this is about coming closer together, building bonds, And so that is the deeper theme. And if we look at the heliocentric chart of that very same moment, that's another stunner. We had just a few minutes prior a Mercury Jupiter conjunction in Pisces, again speaking of a very expansive mental energy coming in, which is able to pick up higher frequencies, Piscean energies, very spiritual dimensions are opening here as soon as we're piercing through all the muck. And with Pluto here at the descendant, yes, it's also a phase of transformation, of shifting our perspectives. So this was the very first one on the 28th. Then the next big one was that X.13 flare, which was the peak of that sequence. See, that was this one here. I mean, there's a whole series of other ones here also, which are in the M category. I guess overall there were about 9 flares or more. I mean, yeah, if we read the lines here, it's probably more like 12 flares above the M1 region, which is huge flares. What is in the C class, these are kind of medium flares, and you see there were countless of those. And what is below the B, the sea level, the Bs are very minor events. And this is a logarithmic scale. So if we go from C to M, this is 10 times bigger, and then from M to X, this is again 10 times bigger. So you can imagine if we would go linear, these spikes would go way, way higher. It just shows you the intensity of power of energy which is released in these moments when the sun is flaring. So this was the peak event. Again, what stands out here is the cardinal axis. And again, this is where the moon will be farthest from Earth, just in a couple days now, actually tomorrow. And this is where the ascendant was when Pholus turned direct, taking off the cork, as I showed you in the other short reading I did. If you haven't seen that yet, go back to it, please. The one about the healing journey we're on now collectively, cutting through all these dark shadows of our past, which will be a true liberation, opening us to much deeper and more trusting bonds with one another. That's where we are heading towards. We're getting closer and closer in melting in with one another. It's all those timelines which are streamlined, which are coming into coherence. That is where we are heading in a bigger way. That is that a big event which was predicted through Project Looking Glass. If you go and watch Bill Woods, he was talking about that first time. So it is that singularity event we're heading towards. It's not immediate, but we're definitely building momentum in this direction. And who knows, as soon as we are integrated enough, then this will become possible. Most interesting here, I guess that's probably the most exciting content of this chart, was the Moon Jupiter conjunction. Jupiter 2100, the Moon 2107. When I saw this, I said, oh wow, that is such a beautiful, expansive energy which is activated here, truly warming up that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction within a few days now. On the 12th that will be, I will make another recording on that too. So this all shows that we are on a most wonderful timeline now, even though it's still very difficult in the apparent reality. But it is like that when light comes into a very dark place. First of all, you see all the what you call them, the skeletons in the closets. They all have to be pulled out, and I mean, they don't have to, it just happens. It's a natural happening as soon as light is coming, and that's what we are seeing with the black moon here tuning into the cardinal cross, which is all about collective experiences. So we can definitely expect that this is even getting more wild over the coming 10 to 20 days. I guess it's on the 17th, and the black moon is exactly here in the cardinal cross, which is around the time of the lunar eclipse. No, that's the one from May. Right here you see the black moon already 3 degrees into the sign of Cancer, just a little bit ahead here. So it's, yeah, I guess it's the full moon which brings the, so yeah, the around full moon, the 16th, is definitely a day to look forward to as more and more comes into the open. Now let's go back to this flare sequence. So that was the 30th of March, and just a few hours later, it was just hard to believe that this would happen, but it did. Just a few hours later, we had another major spike here, the M9.6 event, and that was just a few hours shy of a new moon. And what shows here in this global chart is you can't make that stuff up. Chiron at 12:16, the sun at 11 degrees and 1 minute, and tightly hugging here the 7th house cusp. Again, if you think back of this chart here, which shows you that all those planets are really grouped around that center point of around 12-13 degrees Aries, and that is where the sun and Chiron are meeting. Chiron, again, the wounded healer, which is a powerful force of bringing forth everything which is not in balance, putting our focus on first uncovering and then allowing the process of healing to set in. That is exactly, it couldn't be more in our face, the message here. And the moon here in its last degrees before new moon, the moon in that phase, late balsamic. Usually this is a very dreamy phase, and getting ready for new moon. Not so it was this time. Energies were really shooting up, as literal as one can put it. And so then a few hours later, again after new moon now, or a day later, we had this M.2.9 solar flare, and that is this one again. If we go back here quickly to the chart, that was on the 2nd at 2:56 a.m. On the 2nd here, that was this spike here. And again, I couldn't believe when I looked at the chart. This was dead on the moment when the sun and Chiron were in the same spot in the sky as seen from Earth. Mercury not far away here, just a day shy of its superior conjunction, which is the high point in the Sun-Mercury cycle, which is about a 4-month cycle. Sun and Mercury at the upper conjunction is the peak of clarity, of insight, of understanding. This synchronicity with the Sun exactly conjuncting Chiron, and within seconds of that M2.9 flare peaking, actually the time given in the space weather page and wherever you can look them up is 2:56 a.m. on April the 2nd, so it can't be much more exact. So this was truly exciting, and the moon at that time was at 22 Aries, again making an exact angle to all the planets at the 22nd degree, most of all naturally the Mars-Saturn conjunction, which would come exact just 3 days after that flare hit, which was yesterday as we are recording this. Jupiter here at the midpoint together with Neptune, and the lunar nodes again are here in another exact 30-degree multiple to all these. So this is showing that we are in a moment in history where society from the very ground up is restructured. Whenever Jupiter and Saturn are in the same picture, you see they're here 30 degrees apart, again in this multiples of 30 degrees, and then linking in with all these other 22 degree alignments, and not even speaking of the 7 degrees cardinal, which is the midpoint between the 22 of the fixed signs, so the midpoint between Mars Saturn here and the lunar north node, for example, Salacia, and there is this cross of these minor planets, which will be forming a most outstanding alignment on the 18th, forming a T-square within just 1 hour, 4 planets in the same exact 90-degree formation. I will also record one on that upcoming. Another one which is noteworthy here is the 26th degree of Taurus, where the source point is. That is in an aspect to the galactic center. All the full moons we had in these last 7 months were in the 27-degree region. When the galactic center is activated, then this is an additional amplification from a higher dimension. It means that there's something of truly universal presence which is helping us, supporting us to break through this critical phase. And then the last flare here I have, no, this was then the Uranus occultation. There were 2 more flares. Let me just quickly bring them up here. I just can only display that many charts. That's why I'm sometimes running out of space. So we had these 2. These were the 2 last spikes. So I show you again here on this one. That was then this one and this one. These were the 2 final ones. 3.9 and 4.3 were the magnitudes. The 3.9 flare again has Uranus at the top and Hygeia here at the root of the chart. I guess that's pretty obvious. Again, with Venus here and Juno at the 7th house cusp, very beautiful. It's really like the curtains are pulled open now. It's, yes, there's lots to heal, lots to come to terms with, but we shouldn't pay more than the necessary attention to it, to remember, to heal it, to close the chapters, and then really move on to the new frequencies here with the moon. And yeah, the moon here in the final degree of Aries here in this chart. And again, naturally, that very, very close still Chiron, Mercury, Sun conjunction. Actually, Mercury just 13 minutes prior to this flare was exactly conjunct Chiron. Yet another unbelievable synchronicity. Chiron, 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 over and again. Chiron is really the planet of the hour, you could say. And then the last big spike, that 4.3 flare, and again it's just again beautiful how all these planets are grouped here in this same region, focused on the Sun, Chiron and Mercury here in the 7th house. So it's all about interaction. This is the time to go out and meet and reach other people, talk to your friends, your family, and solve old standing issues, problems. Vertex point here, most particularly, yes, it's about the higher dimensional meeting with other people, with our surroundings. The spiritual focus is very strong here. The moon here, 0 degrees Taurus, initiates here again that 0 degrees Aquarius mark here, which is where all that new energy started coming in December in 2020, when Jupiter and Saturn had their conjunction here at 0 degrees. So whenever we have 0 degrees fixed, accentuated, this is bringing that energy strongly back. Also Venus and Mars had their conjunction here on March the 6th, if you may remember. So there's lots of that Aquarian frequencies now popping into the open on all levels. So anyway, that's just a short review on those solar flares. It's a truly exciting time to live in. Take it one day at a time and deal with whatever emotional, physical issues there are in your life. It's an important time of healing. Go back to my earlier recording if you haven't done that yet. And yes, subscribe. If you like, even you can share it. Talk to you soon. Love you all. Okay. Bye bye.